Imagine losing power for 3 days straight. No fridge, no fan, no lights. Just heat, darkness, and silence. Now imagine walking into your garage, picking up an old power drill, hooking it to a car alternator, and switching on a light bulb powered by 220 volts of AC electricity. No inverter, no solar panel, no fancy electronics. Just two simple machines working together. Sounds impossible, right? But it's not. And today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how this works, step by step, in the simplest way possible. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand a trick that off-grid survivalists, mechanics, and backyard engineers have been quietly using for years. Before we go further, if you're someone who likes practical knowledge that actually works in real life, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel breaks down complex ideas into simple, boring, no-nonsense explanations. No hype, no fluff, just facts that make sense. Subscribe now, because what comes next in this video will change how you think about backup power forever. Let's start with a question. What do a power drill and a car alternator actually have in common? On the surface, nothing. One is a tool you use to put screws into wood. The other is a part hidden deep inside your car's engine bay, something most people never think about unless their battery dies. But here's the secret. Both of these devices deal with rotation. A drill spins. An alternator also spins internally to generate electricity. And when you connect the spinning motion of one to the spinning need of the other, something interesting happens. You create a small mechanical power generation system using parts you probably already own or can find cheap at a scrapyard. Let's break this down slowly, because understanding the why here matters more than just following steps blindly. Inside every car, the alternator is the unsung hero. While your engine burns fuel and spins a belt, that belt turns a pulley connected to the alternator. Inside the alternator, there's a rotor, a set of coils, and magnets. As the rotor spins, it creates a changing magnetic field. And whenever a magnetic field changes near a coil of wire, it induces an electrical current. This is basic electromagnetic induction, something discovered by Michael Faraday nearly 2 centuries ago. Your car alternator doesn't need a spinning engine specifically. It just needs something to spin its shaft fast enough and consistently enough. That's where the drill comes in. A power drill is essentially a compact, high-torque spinning machine. Normally, we use it to spin drill bits or screwdriver heads, but if you remove the bit and attach the drill chuck to the alternator's pulley shaft using a simple coupling piece, you create a spinning connection. Pull the trigger on the drill, and instead of drilling into wood, you're now spinning the alternator's rotor. And that spinning rotor, as we just explained, generates electricity. Now here's where it gets more interesting. A standard car alternator naturally produces alternating current, or AC, inside itself. But most alternators convert this into direct current, or DC, using built-in diodes because cars run on DC systems for their batteries. So if you just hook up a battery to a drill-spun alternator, you're going to get DC output, not 220 volts AC. To actually get usable AC electricity, especially something close to 220 volts, you need a specific type of alternator setup, or you need to tap the output before the internal diode bridge, accessing the raw AC signal being generated by the stator coils. This is the part most people online skip explaining, and it's the part that actually makes this project work or fail. Some builders use specially wound generator heads instead of a stock car alternator. Others rewire the stator connections carefully to extract 3-phase AC directly. The voltage you get depends heavily on how fast you spin the rotor. Spin it slowly, and you get low voltage. Spin it faster using a high RPM drill, and the voltage climbs. This is why choosing a drill with high rotational speed matters so much in this build. A slow, weak drill simply won't get you anywhere close to the voltage needed to power something like a household bulb rated for 220 volts. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why not just use a generator you buy from the store? Why go through all this trouble? Well, that's exactly the mindset this video is here to challenge. Understanding how to generate emergency power from parts lying around your garage isn't about replacing a proper generator. It's about understanding the principles so deeply that you're never truly powerless, literally and figuratively. If you know how electricity is created from motion, you stop seeing electrical devices as magic boxes. You start seeing them as understandable systems. And that shift in thinking is incredibly valuable, especially in a world where power outages, natural disasters, and grid failures are becoming more common every single year. There's also a deeper story here, one about resourcefulness. Throughout history, some of the most brilliant inventions came from people who didn't have access to expensive lab equipment. They had scrap metal, basic tools, and curiosity. The idea of combining a drill with an alternator isn't some professionally engineered product. It's the kind of thing that emerges from rural workshops, from mechanics tinkering after hours, from people in areas with unreliable electricity who had to get creative just to charge a phone or run a small fan. This project sits at that same crossroads of necessity and curiosity. But before you rush off to try this yourself, there's something critical you need to understand. We are talking about generating real electrical voltage here, potentially dangerous voltage. This isn't a toy experiment. Alternators can produce enough current to cause serious injury if handled carelessly. Bare wires, exposed terminals, and spinning mechanical parts are all serious hazards. In the next part of this video, we're going to go deeper into exactly how the voltage gets stepped up, how people manage the wiring safely, what tools and precautions are actually involved, and why this method, despite sounding simple, requires respect and caution at every single step. We'll also talk about why some builders fail completely, ending up with a device that either doesn't generate enough power or becomes dangerously unstable. Because understanding the theory is only half the battle. The real skill lies in execution. So if you're curious about how ordinary garage tools can become emergency power generators, you're going to want to see what comes next. Let's pick up right where we left off. We now understand that a drill can spin an alternator, and that spinning motion creates electricity through basic electromagnetic induction. But turning that raw concept into something that actually powers a 220-volt bulb involves several more layers of detail. This is the part where most casual explanations online stop short, and it's exactly the part we're going to dig into now. First, let's talk about the drill itself, because not just any drill will do this job properly. A weak, low RPM cordless drill from a basic home toolkit usually won't generate enough rotational speed to produce meaningful voltage. Builders who successfully pull this off tend to use higher RPM drills, sometimes corded ones, because corded drills usually maintain consistent speed under load better than battery-powered ones. Remember, when the alternator starts producing resistance as it generates electricity, that resistance pushes back against the drill. This is called mechanical load. A weak drill motor can actually slow down or stall under this load, especially if you're trying to squeeze out higher voltage. So part of the secret here isn't just spinning something. It's spinning something powerful enough to maintain speed even while fighting resistance. Next, let's talk about the connection between the drill and the alternator. This sounds simple, but it's actually one of the trickiest mechanical parts of the whole build. You can't just awkwardly hold a spinning drill against a spinning pulley. That's dangerous and inefficient. Builders typically create or purchase a coupling adapter, a small metal piece that connects the drill chuck directly to the alternator's pulley shaft. This needs to be aligned properly because any wobble or misalignment at high RPM can cause vibration, heat, or even mechanical failure. Some hobbyists mount the alternator onto a small wooden or metal stand, bolting it down securely, so that when the drill spins it, the whole setup doesn't shake violently or fly apart. Stability matters here more than people expect. Now, here's where the real engineering challenge begins, stepping up the voltage. A typical car alternator, even a well-modified one, might only generate somewhere in the range of a few volts, up to maybe 20 or 30 volts AC at the raw stator output, depending on spin speed and the specific alternator's winding design. That's nowhere near 220 volts. So how do people bridge that massive gap? This is where a step-up transformer comes into play. A transformer is a device that can increase voltage while decreasing current, based on the ratio of wire windings on its input and output sides. By feeding the alternator's raw AC output into a step-up transformer with the correct winding ratio, builders can multiply that low voltage into something closer to 220 volts. This is genuinely the heart of the whole trick. Without a transformer, you'd be stuck with weak voltage capable of maybe lighting a small LED, not powering something built for standard household voltage. Now, some viewers might wonder, doesn't this feel like cheating? Like the drill and alternator aren't really doing all the work? And that's actually a fair observation. The truth is, this entire project is a chain of energy transformation. The drill provides mechanical, rotational energy. The alternator converts that mechanical energy into raw electrical energy. And the transformer reshapes that raw electrical energy into a usable voltage level. Each piece plays a distinct role. None of them alone could get you from point A to point B. This is actually a beautiful example of how real-world engineering solutions are often built, not from one genius invention, but from combining several ordinary components in a clever sequence. Let's talk about consistency next, because voltage alone isn't the full story. AC electricity also has something called frequency, measured in hertz. Standard household electricity typically runs at either 50 or 60 hertz, depending on your country. When you're manually spinning an alternator with a handheld drill, your frequency output can fluctuate wildly based on how steadily you're pulling the trigger and how much pressure you're applying. This is one of the reasons why devices powered this way, like simple incandescent bulbs, tend to work reasonably well since bulbs don't care much about frequency stability. But anything with sensitive electronics, like a phone charger or a laptop, could be damaged or simply won't function properly on this kind of unstable homemade power. This is a crucial safety and practicality point that's often left out of flashy video titles. This method isn't meant to power your entire house. It's meant to demonstrate a principle, and in emergency situations, potentially provide very basic lighting. Now, let's address wiring safety, because this is where things get serious. When you're dealing with alternator output feeding into a step-up transformer, producing 220 volts, you're working with genuinely dangerous electricity. This isn't the low-voltage world of simple electronics hobby kits. 220 volts AC can be lethal under the wrong circumstances. Every connection point needs to be properly insulated. Bare wire ends should never be left exposed. Builders who take this seriously use proper wire connectors, heat shrink tubing, and enclosed junction boxes to prevent accidental contact. They also avoid working with wet hands or in damp environments, since water dramatically increases the risk of electrocution. If you ever attempt something like this yourself, treating every wire as if it's live, even when you think it isn't, is the mindset that keeps people safe. There's also the question of grounding and circuit protection. A properly built system would include some form of fuse or circuit breaker between the transformer output and whatever device is being powered. This protects against sudden voltage spikes, which are actually quite common in hand-cranked or drill-powered systems, since your spin speed isn't perfectly steady. A sudden spike in RPM, even for a second, can translate into a voltage spike on the output side. Without protection, this spike could damage the very device you're trying to power, whether that's a bulb or something else entirely. Now let's shift for a moment to why this project has captured so much attention among off-grid enthusiasts and preppers. In a genuine emergency, when the power grid goes down for days, most people panic because they feel completely dependent on centralized electricity. But someone who understands this drill alternator transformer method has a mental toolkit that goes beyond just owning a generator. They understand the actual physics of power generation. They know that with basic components, a bit of mechanical effort, and careful wiring, they can create at least some usable electricity, even if it's just enough to light a room or charge a basic device through an appropriate adapter. This knowledge transforms helplessness into capability. It's also worth mentioning why this specific combination, drill plus alternator, has become such a popular demonstration online. It's relatable. Almost everyone has access to a power drill, and car alternators are incredibly common, sitting in scrap yards, old junk cars, or auto parts stores for relatively low prices. Compare that to buying a proper backup generator, which can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on capacity. This method, while not a replacement for a real generator, represents an accessible entry point into understanding personal power generation, using tools most people can get their hands on without much difficulty. At this point, we've covered the mechanical connection, the electromagnetic induction principle, the critical role of the step-up transformer, the challenges of frequency instability, and the serious safety considerations involved. But there's still more to unpack. What actually happens the moment that bulb lights up for the first time? What does it feel like, mechanically and emotionally, to prove to yourself that you just generated real household-level electricity using nothing but a spinning tool and old car parts? And more importantly, what are the real limitations of this system that you need to understand before ever thinking about relying on it in a genuine emergency? We're going to close everything out and bring this entire story together in the final part. So stick with me for just a bit longer. So here we are at the final piece of this puzzle. We've talked about the drill, the alternator, the transformer, and all the invisible physics happening in between. Now let's talk about the moment that actually matters most. The moment that bulb flickers to life for the very first time. Picture this. The alternator is bolted down securely to a wooden stand. The wires are insulated, connected carefully to a step-up transformer. On the other end of that transformer sits a simple incandescent bulb, sitting quietly, waiting. You pick up the drill, position the chuck against the coupling adapter, and take a breath. This isn't like turning a key in your car or flipping a light switch. This is different. This is you, manually creating electricity with your own hand and a spinning tool. You pull the trigger. The drill winds to life. The alternator's rotor begins spinning inside its housing. And somewhere in that spinning motion, invisible to the eye, magnetic fields begin shifting, electrons begin moving, and raw AC current starts flowing into the transformer. For a second, nothing happens. Then, slowly, the bulb begins to glow. Faint at first, almost hesitant, like it's testing whether this whole setup is really going to work. Then, as your drill speed increases and stabilizes, the glow strengthens. It brightens into a steady, warm light, powered entirely by mechanical effort and a chain of simple components most people would never think to connect. There's something deeply satisfying about that moment. It's not just a bulb turning on, it's proof. Proof that electricity isn't magic. It's a process you now understand from start to finish. But let's be honest with each other here, because that's what this channel is about. Boring, honest, practical truth, not hype. This drill and alternator setup is not a replacement for a real backup generator. It has serious limitations. The voltage output is unstable, rising and falling based on how consistently the drill is spun. Running it for extended periods is physically exhausting, since someone has to keep pulling that trigger and applying pressure the entire time. It's also not something you can safely leave unattended, unlike a real generator that runs on its own once started. This is a demonstration of principle, a proof of concept, not a long-term power solution for your home. And yet, that doesn't make it any less valuable. In fact, its real value lies exactly in what it teaches you. Once you understand that a spinning motion combined with magnets and wire coils can produce real electrical voltage, you start looking at the world differently. You start noticing spinning things everywhere. Bicycle wheels, water flowing in a stream, wind turning a fan blade, and your brain automatically starts connecting them to the possibility of generating power. That shift in perspective from consumer to understander is something no store-bought generator can give you. You can buy a machine that makes electricity for you. But this project teaches you how electricity is actually made, using your own hands, your own effort, and basic mechanical intuition. There's also a bigger lesson hidden inside this whole video, one that goes beyond drills and alternators. It's about resourcefulness in the face of limitation. So many of us grow up believing that solving complex problems requires expensive tools, professional training, or specialized knowledge locked behind textbooks. But history keeps proving otherwise. Some of the most important breakthroughs, the most clever solutions to real problems, came from people working with limited resources, forced to think creatively because they had no other choice. A mechanic in a small workshop combining spare parts to solve a power problem is participating in the same spirit of ingenuity that has driven human progress for centuries. This project is a small, humble example of that same mindset, applied to something as ordinary as a power drill in a car alternator. Now, if you're someone who's genuinely inspired to try something like this yourself, I want to leave you with one final piece of advice, and it's the most important thing in this entire video. Respect the electricity. 220 volts is not a toy. It can genuinely hurt or kill you if handled carelessly. If you ever attempt a project like this, take the time to properly research wiring safety, use insulated tools, avoid working in wet conditions, and never assume a wire is safe just because the source looks small or homemade. Homemade doesn't mean harmless. In fact, homemade systems often lack the built-in safety features that commercial products are required to have, which means the responsibility for safety falls entirely on you. Curiosity is a wonderful thing, but curiosity paired with caution is what actually keeps people safe while they learn. So let's bring this all together. We started this video with a simple, curiosity-driven question. Can a power drill in a car alternator actually create 220 volts of usable electricity? And through understanding electromagnetic induction, the critical role of a step-up transformer, the mechanical challenges of coupling a drill to an alternator shaft, and the real safety concerns involved, we now have a full, honest answer. Yes, it's possible, but it comes with real limitations, real risks, and a real education attached to it. This isn't about replacing your generator. It's about understanding power itself at a level most people never bother to explore. And that right there is exactly why this channel exists. To take complex technical ideas and break them down into something anyone can understand without hype, without exaggeration, just honest explanation. If this video actually taught you something new today, if you walked away understanding electricity a little better than you did 15 minutes ago, then I want you to do something for me right now. Drop a comment below and tell me what surprised you the most. Was it the transformer step-up trick? Was it the frequency instability issue? Or was it simply the idea that a drill sitting in your garage could, with the right setup, help generate real household voltage? I read every single comment, and I want to know what stood out to you. And if you know someone, a friend, a family member, anyone who's into DIY projects, off-grid living, emergency preparedness, or just loves understanding how things actually work, do them a favor and share this video with them. Send it directly. Not everyone stumbles across content like this on their own. And sometimes the only reason someone learns something valuable is because a friend cared enough to share it. This channel grows through people like you, people who actually care about understanding the world a little more deeply than everyone else. So take a moment right now before you move on to the next video, drop that comment, hit share, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, because we've got more videos coming that break down real-world mechanical and electrical mysteries, just like this one, in the same simple, honest, boring way you actually enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.